Alright guys, what's going on? Welcome to the next video for our MyTeam career mode race number 4 in Canada. And the race in Miami actually felt pretty good, even though we didn't get points, but our teammate of Daniel Tickton did get a single point for getting P10. A very challenging race once again, and a little bit of bumper to bumper here and there with some other drivers in the last race. But so like before, we're gonna go ahead and run through practice and then qualifying and see how our recording does. I did tweak the settings again, so hopefully we won't have any of those issues anymore, but we'll have to wait and see until we get to the end of recording, qualifying, and then the end of the race. So without further ado, we're gonna go ahead and knock out practice, and then we'll see you guys back in qualifying. All right, here we are in qualifying in Canada, and actually we took a little bit of a break from the game, and we downloaded F123 just a few hours ago, and played a little bit of F1 World, tweaked a little bit of the settings, and I tried to attempt medium traction control, dumb it down a little bit compared to this game. If you guys remember from Bahrain during qualifying, or I think it was practice, one of those that I put a note in that I was messing with the traction control settings, and it wasn't fun, but manageable in F123. But enough of that, we're not quite there yet, as we're into qualifying in Canada. And yeah, we're feeling pretty good about practice, and we got to prepare for a wet race. So hopefully we can get a good enough placement for the grid to have a good race. So let's get out there.
Confirmed. Session, and we're in the drop zone. We need a quick lap, or that's qualifying over.
Alright, I guess I could say I should have waited to play F123 until after recording this race, as my first two times weren't too good, because the handling on F123 was actually pretty good. I believe I already said that earlier. But yeah, so qualifying P9 into Q2, and Dan Tickton makes it into Q2 as well. As let's see, both BMW Williams, Aston Martin, one AlfaTauri, and one Renault get knocked out. As Lewis Hamilton actually P16 in Q1, almost getting knocked out of Q1. That's a bit of a surprise here, as he's 2 seconds off the lead pace, and off to qualifying 2. So let's get right to it. All right, just barely out of the top 10 behind Mick Schumacher, 113.247 against a 113.341. It's no worries. We're starting in P11, and our teammate Dan Tickton is starting in the road directly behind us. But we're feeling pretty good about this race in the top 10. Pretty spread out here. Red Bull on one side, Ferrari on the other. And then Mercedes behind one another as well. Pierre Gasly and the AlfaTauri there in P6. Lando Norris and the McLaren in P8. Joe Granule in the Audi Motorsport. And to round out the top 10, Mick Schumacher in the Haas. So, yeah, let's get right to the race.
Hello and welcome to the Ile Notre Dame once again for what promises to be another incredible Canadian Grand Prix at this fiercely competitive circuit, where pole position can often be decided by less than 1/10 of a second. It's a tricky circuit to tackle in wet conditions, with top speed still of critical importance down the long back straight. There are 2.7 miles and 14 corners overall on this circuit that in the dry can see average lap speeds of around 130 miles per hour. We'll be lucky to get anywhere near that today. It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. Max Verstappen put in a fantastic lap yesterday, and he'll start from pole position. And it's Charles Leclerc in P2. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Perez, Norris, Carlos Sainz, and Russell, Hamilton, Mick Schumacher, Joe, and Johnson, Oscar Piastri, Ricciardo, Daniel Tickton, and Stroll, Magnussen, Ocon, Sebastian Vettel, and Pierre Gasly. They've taken a grid penalty. Tsunoda, Bottas, Latifi, And Alex Albon picks up the last spot on the grid. It's almost time for the lights to go out, so let's head down to the track where preparations are underway. And joining me again for the race today, Natalie Pinkham. Now we probably ought to start by discussing Pierre Gasly. As ever, the threat of unreliability is never far away, and indeed they'll be starting out of position today due to power unit component changes. It's going to be a difficult task to move forward from there.
Everyone has to deal with penalties or reliability issues from time to time throughout their career. You just have to suck up the pain and get on with the job at hand. Today isn't about performing a miracle to put the car back where it should be. It's about effective damage limitation.
All right. Kind of capitalizing on the Pierre Gasly penalty due to their components. I don't know if you guys were able to see it, but my gearbox is at 70%. So we're gonna have to see if we can last this race without DNFing in order to swap that gearbox out. So with the way the weather says, it looks like the rain's gonna be clearing up around the lap 17 or so. We're gonna go with the default strategy here and hope that we don't have to change into another set of intermediates. We're actually gonna go ahead and stretch this out a little bit, just in case. We'll do lap 19, just to be safe. But it shouldn't be that long. Hoping that we can hit the right mark on these intermediates and have enough wear and tear left on them in order to change to mediums, possibly, instead of hards. So we're going to go ahead and drop our fuel a little bit and then get out on the track for our formation lap.
Here we go then, the formation lap is underway. These are wet conditions here today. Each driver will no doubt be mindful of the wet surface as they prepare to race around the track. Take their positions on the grid, with the drivers and teams making their final preparations.
All right, a little bit of a slow start here with our replay off the 5 red lights, but we are off between the two Audi Sports of Oscar Piastri and Joe Granu. And the rain really let up this time as we knew to brake early and be as safe as we can. But we had a little bit of contact there with Mick Schumacher as we have a little bit of damage on the front wing, as you guys could probably tell from the thumbnail of the video. As we try to gain our footing behind Mick Schumacher in the rain. Going a little bit wide there as we're side by side with Oscar Piastri, still holding that position here in P10. No gain as of yet here as we're coming into Sector 2. And one Haas in front of us, one Haas behind Oscar Piastri in P12 here. As unsure of how long this rain will be here. I'm trying to hold this racing line as best as we can in the rain and to not go too far over into the grass. And I felt pretty good, but we did end up going late on the brakes, almost coming in contact with Mick Schumacher there. Would have been very bad for us here on the end of lap 1, as Mick Schumacher does stay in that line, taking off from us. That is nothing we can really do, as it is raining, so trying to be as safe as possible and taking our time over those curves. I felt like I was going over a little bit too much compared to F121, but we didn't get any warnings for going over those curves like that, so we're gonna take it. Moving on now to lap 6, we finally actually catch up to Mick Schumacher and be able to make a move here. Coming up on him, and we make a bold move to the outside, going over into the grass, cutting him off, pushing him to the pushing Schumacher to the inside a little bit too aggressively for my taste, and we didn't actually get a warning there. We didn't get a contact warning with him. As next up is Joe Granu in P8. As we still have rain here on lap 6. But moving on to lap 9, about the same area, we're catching up to Joe Granu, and I'm wondering if I have to make the same move. And this time we cut on the inside. We push him outside wide. We ride a little bit of a curve, a little bit too much for what we wanted to. But we end up taking B8 from Joe Granu on lap 9. And Joe Granu still puts up a fight here as we're coming into the end of Sector 2 and Sector 3. And he decides to try to make a move on the inside. And I knew I was going to hold momentum on the outside lane. We do end up cutting him off a bit, as you see him slow down there in front of Mick Schumacher. But we do end up holding that position against Joe Granu to round out the end of lap 9 here. As you could probably tell, there is no more rain falling, and we had a quick decision to make as we were in Sector 3 when they called for a strategy change, so I didn't get a chance to look at what the strategy was. I just hit accept and went straight in for the pits because there was no more rain, and to my surprise, I saw them putting on the softs, so I had the idea that they were going to put mediums on me, and I was going to be running those mediums to the end of the race and possibly the hards even. But putting the softs on this car right now, as the track is still trying to dry off right now. The track is still somewhat wet, and we had to take it easy on this out lap from the pits. That way we can warm up these soft tires in the rain. As you can see, there's a little bit of water droplets still on the camera, and I was worried about the pit decision that I blindly looked at, but we do manage to gain some positions on lap 10, as a couple other people who haven't gone into the pits yet do go into the pits for their dry tires. And at this point, my soft tires were warmed up, and I was ready to fight for some positions. So we have P7 Lewis Hamilton and P6 George Russell to try and catch up to, even though we are about 3.5 seconds behind. And we do make quick work of that as we move on to lap 13 on board with Lewis Hamilton here as he's finishing out the second sector, hairpin before Sector 3. And you can actually see that it's going to a yellow flag here. Lewis Hamilton getting another engine failure, or mechanical failure here. It's going to be back-to-back mechanical failures here for Lewis Hamilton, as he did get a DNF last race. As you can see, the Haas of Mick Schumacher passing him. And I actually had to slow down so you can see the onboard here with Kevin Magnussen. I believe, no, Mick Schumacher, I apologize. As you can see him coming up behind me. And I lost a lot of time on these soft tires when everybody else is running mediums. You can see the Audi there too as well, trying to catch up. But we end up coming in for our set of mediums finally on lap 19 of 35. And we have about a 10-second gap between us and Carlos Sainz, and about another 5-second gap ahead of Mick Schumacher, but we end up losing that. As you can see, Schumacher on the main straight, as well as Oscar Piastri and Kevin Magnussen fighting for a position as we do swap over to those mediums. And I'm feeling everybody else is going to be on a one-stop strategy from intermediates to mediums, and I'm going to be out of luck here, out of the points, as I do come out onto the track. Just barely in front of Nicholas Latifi in the BMW Williams, and behind our teammate of Daniel Ticktum, who is just about 3 seconds ahead of us. So we had to make do with what we could, and we kind of being a little bit aggressive here to our teammate as we push him on the inside and take P12 from him, with Sebastian Vettel next up in front of us. Once again, just like before in the same area, we were trying to take it easy, as there's the overpass there as we're on board with our teammate of Daniel Ticktum. And yeah, so next up is Sebastian Vettel, but a lot of the front runners are going in for a second stop, a second set of mediums. I was the only person to put on a set of softs there in the middle stint of this race, so we make a couple of positions back up into the points, as we're less than 10 laps away from finishing out this race, getting bumped up to P9 behind Yuki Tsunoda, and a few laps later we actually catch up to him, or actually the end of the same lap here, and trying to catch up to him as best as we can, as he actually goes in with Kevin Magnussen, which I didn't notice at the time, but I was wondering where he was in front of me. So that's going to leave us behind Carlos Sainz in P6, but he is about 4.7 seconds ahead of us, and that's basically going to be the rest of the challenge of the race here as we try to get position. But to no avail, Carlos Sainz ends up finishing, or beating us to the finish line in P6 as we round out the end of the race in P7.
Okay, pick up rubber and bring it home.
RedBull pulling out all the stops today. What a great win. Natalie Pinkham, how do you think they were able to set themselves apart today?
I think that smart tyre management on track and very smooth driving definitely assisted in their victory today. That combination meant they got the absolute maximum out of their tyres at all times.
RedBull put up an outstanding fight for the front position today, and it's great to see it paid off for them. They do so much for the sports that you can't help but be delighted by today's race win. Let's have a quick look at how the drivers' standings have changed. Despite the best efforts of our championship leader, that lead has taken a bit of a knock today. Let's focus on the driver of the day. Natalie Pinkham, come on, who do you pick?
That's got to be the Flying Finn. Wait, how many Flying Finns have we got now? Anyway, I'm talking about Bottas this time. Just great raw speed and a good job in the traffic as well.
It's time to see how things are shaping up in the Constructors' Championship. And pulling further ahead in the standings, it's RedBull. It was also a strong Grand Prix from Haas F1 this weekend. Fantastic work from the American team to move themselves further up the table. Well, that was certainly an exciting weekend of Formula One. Be sure to join us for more exciting Formula One action very soon.
All right, a pretty eventful race here as Haas, both of them getting in the top 10, and then the top 10 being rounded out by Oscar Piastri in the Audi Motorsport. Dan Tickton very unfortunate about getting knocked down to P13. He's basically ending where he started out, as we gained 3 positions off of our double pit stop race. And initially when I thought about going in with those intermediates, I thought I was going to be running the intermediates for at least half of the race, but not even 10 laps before we swap over to softs. And there's a quick glance at it too. I saw the red and I'm like, okay, they're going to want me to run softs and then mediums instead of just hards for the rest of the race. And when I went for softs first, I thought people were staying out. And then when they went through mediums, I thought they were all going to be going to from mediums to softs. So I was going to be at a disadvantage, but I wasn't really at a disadvantage. They, most of them either stayed on the same set of mediums or went in for a double set of mediums. So that double pit stop strategy wasn't really a risky strategy for us, as we took that second pit stop for P7 to finish out this race. And we can actually take a look here. I was the only one to swap over to softs, and then Lewis Hamilton DNF'd on the set of mediums, which was very unfortunate, especially for us, because we were on the softs and we were catching up to them because the 2 Mercedes were stacked up with each other. So very unfortunate for us, and then that allowed the Haases to catch up to us while we were on a set of softs, trying to gain as much ground as we can before going to the mediums. But in the end, it doesn't really matter. We scored some more points, and we're looking okay in the standings. We're P7 in the driver standings, so we're going to round that out for the end of the video, and we'll see you guys in the next one.